You're in Florida, I'm in Arizona, and we've got a handful of spring training games already under our belt here, which means we got a lot of prospect action. I have a gripe right off the bat, though. I was promised Jesus Mate. I drove to go see Jesus Mate. I did not
Yeah.
get to see Jesus Mate, but I did get to see Laz Montes put one off the batter's eye.
Hmm.
You've had the chance to see some prospect performers out of the gate, though you guys did get rained out yesterday. And
Yeah.
then there's been players who we haven't been able to see in person that we just want to catch up on because they're doing some cool stuff. Grant Taylor hit 101. I mean, we have several names that have just stood out. TK Roby looks healthy. JJ Weatherholt went yard. Zaire Hope looks like the freak that we've been talking about he
Yeah.
could be. I know it's spring training. I know we don't want to just overanalyze or anything like that. But at the same time, we're getting a chance to see some of these prospects flat out play. And anytime you get a look at these prospects, it's exciting to be able to talk about it.
Yeah, there are a couple ways you can slice this, and it's like, wow, you guys are being too reactionary. It's only spring training and it's only been 3 days, but like they've been a really fun 3 days, and we want to talk about those first 3 days. And like the beauty of StatCast, I think, is you've got a guy, and I know in a one inning spurt, a lot of people are going to be, amped up, yada yada yada. But I mean, you can see things that guys just haven't done before. Like we're going to talk about Robbie Snelling, who hit 97, and like I just caught Snelling in the clubhouse, and it's like, did you ever hit that in 2023? He was like, I think I got it once, but I'm not like, don't quote me on that. I'm like, yeah, dude. Like this is a unique opportunity for guys to showcase what they've done this offseason. So we want to talk about that. I was going to commend you on a couple things. Number one, appreciate the 8 a.m. Mountain Time record from you. It's great. Like you're being a real team player here because day games just throw a torpedo in my day entirely. Number two, I wanted you to share your Jesus Mate experience with the group because you had a horrible time trying to get a rental car. Like you Ubered on the promise from Pat Murphy that Jesus Mate was going to play, and you just didn't see it happen.
Yeah, so I was bouncing around and I once I got the notification that Jesus Mate was going to be playing in Glendale, I'm like, I don't care if it's one at bat. I just
It's the Kylian Mbappe meme. I will be there no
I
matter
will.
what.
Yeah, I used that one other time, and that was for Griff's debut, for MLB debut. That was literally though, I will be there no matter what. His first at bat stateside, like I want to see that.
Yeah.
And also just because he could have grounded out to second, and I think people would have been pumped to see just the video of it. And it wasn't televised, so I'm like, I gotta go. And I was hoping to see some of the Mariners prospects, which I did get to see. No Emerson, but Laz Montes was fun. We'll talk about that in a little bit.
Arroyo. Yeah.
And Arroyo put some good swings on balls. But man, I had to real quick go get my rental car because I'd been Ubering the first couple days here just to save a couple bucks, but I would plan on getting one today anyway or yesterday anyways. And the airport in Phoenix is a nightmare, by the way. It's
Yeah.
a bizarre setup. And there's one line that is perpetually longer than all of them. And it reminds me that I forget what movie it was where it's just like they're at the DMV and it's a sloth and essentially like the line is around the corner and the sloth is like going. It's essentially felt like that. So the line was never ending, and I was like, I can't wait in this. I'm gonna miss the whole game. It was already the third, fourth inning. I left the line, Ubered to the ballpark, but I had my backpack with me. I had to convince, a parking attendant to let me put my backpack in their car because they wouldn't let me bring the backpack into the game because I didn't have credentials because I didn't have time to apply for it. Um, they obliged, very kind. And then I got in there in the fourth inning, was so pumped. I'm like, okay, just in time for Jesus Mata to probably get in here. I think 91 Brewers stepped up to the plate. Obviously not individual Brewers, but 91
Yeah,
plate
but
appearances
91 plate appearances.
by
Yeah.
Brewers and not one for Jesus Mate, unfortunately. But yeah, that was I jumped through some hoops to potentially go see him play and didn't get to, but we did get to see some other cool stuff. I gotta say, that's gotta be one of the worst ballparks here out here in Arizona as well. There were two balls that got through the wall in center field, like just disappeared on the ground. And then somebody fouled one back in center or off the home plate area, like by where you would be sitting, and
Yeah.
just the W in Milwaukee just fell off the
Seriously?
yeah, like could have hurt somebody. Not the best stadium there in Glendale.
Man, might be time for a facelift, I guess, huh?
Yeah.
But Glendale's kind of close to. the Sky Harbor at least.
Well,
Like that was
and
what, 20 minutes?
and they just fixed AmFam, didn't they? And this is AmFam as well, but like they just fixed that to a degree
Yeah,
because
but they
last time we were
share.
there, it was hot as hell. There was no air conditioning. Do you remember?
Right. Who do they share with? Who do the Brewers share with?
I wasn't even
It's
paying attention at the
it's
time.
not their own. I don't think it's their own. I
It
think they
might not be their
share
own,
with somebody.
but
So it would be like, joint decision, but hey, put two organizations together and fix the W in Milwaukee. Why not?
yeah, shouldn't be too hard. But it was a good game, and I might as well just start with that, I guess, because that's like freshest on my mind. Um,
Hmm.
Laz, dude, he took some really. It was interesting because he was patient. He worked a walk first at bat. And I think I mean, he's going to need to be as patient as possible because he's going to whiff. And
Yeah.
I'm sitting there, dude, and I'm already hearing people behind me like, yeah, like he could be like our Jordan or whatever. And I get like the fans should be very excited about their
They
players
should
and
be.
their prospects. I love that. But the Jordan comps drive me nuts because
No.
he whiffs so much more. It's like, it's unfair to Laz, and also I think it sells Jordan short of like just because Jordan's gargantuan, I think people don't forget or don't realize that he's also like a plus hitter.
Yeah.
So that's the other side of it. But that's why the plate discipline is going to be important for Laz. A lot of really good takes. And that I like to see from him that we weren't seeing before, where kind of starting the swing but shutting it down because he's big and you can't really have as easy a takes as other guys. Like you're going to start to be moving and then shut it down. And instead of being like all in or all out, it seemed like he had these like non-committal, starting to go, shutting it down, good takes, and then
Yeah.
finally got a pitch to hit. And I'll be honest, he didn't get a lot to hit because it was just a lot of different arms and didn't get overzealous, especially for a prospect that may not get a ton of ABs. Finally got his opportunity and missed the ball that hit the batter's eye in center field. So that was really impressive to me. But it was funny also getting an opportunity to see in person, see him run on the bases. Gosh, that guy just needs to hit and that's it and just hit.
That's okay. Yeah, in terms of offensive profile, I feel like Schwarber is the better comp
Hmm.
than Jordan Alvarez because he's going to
Absolutely.
walk. Like, Schwarber can hit a buck 97 over the course of a given season and still connect for 40 homers and still have an high OBP and still be like immensely valuable. And I think that Laz can be better than that, but we've also seen Schwarber better than that.
Yeah,
If
exactly.
Schwarber's a 220, 230 hitter and he's getting on base at a 360, 370 clip and he's hitting 40 homers, like that I think is the best leadoff man in baseball.
Yeah.
It's funny what your definition of a leadoff man is, but like Rob Thompson has decided that he wants that at the top of the lineup, where he wants walks and he wants homers, he wants tone setters. I'm not saying Laz is going to be a leadoff man, but like in terms of offensive profile, where he's going to walk, he's going to get his swings off, and he's going to connect with 35. That's the 90th percentile outcome of Laz
Yeah.
Montes, and that's what you should be excited about.
100%. And I think it's always good to just remind folks of that. And actually, Leo Morgenstern, one of our editors at Just Baseball, just put out a piece on the Phillies and their high chase rates and why he's not too concerned about it. But I think a big reason why they have Schwarber at the top is he's a guy that kind of disrupts that. But that really
Yep.
does accentuate the point, that we kind of let off with here, which is he's got to be selective and
Yeah.
continue to be selective. And it can be more difficult to be selective as you see better pitching. And that's the thing to monitor with Laz because I think, dreaming on him making a leap contact rate wise is probably, yeah, a little overzealous. And people might say, oh, but what do you mean he hit 291? Batting average is super weird in the minor league, especially at the lower levels. Like he had a 69% in zone contact rate and he had a 62% overall contact rate. That would put you with some of the lower numbers and of anybody in the top 100 list, to be honest. So, it kind of implies that there's going to be some more challenges bat to ball wise at upper levels. You assume he's going to get better bat to ball wise, but you don't go from 69% contact rate in the zone to 80. It's very unlikely to do that, especially a hitter like him. But if you can walk a ton and hover around the mid 70s, I think he's going to have a really nice career and be in that Schwarber conversation, as you said. So it was cool to see him, up close and personal. I'm not sure if I have gotten another live look, maybe outside of the futures game. I don't even remember if he was in that. It's so hard to remember who I
I don't
saw
think he
in that.
was. Yeah.
That might have been the first time I've been able to see Laz in person. So, yeah, he's as advertised physically, no doubt about that.
Big boy. Only other guy from that game that I want to tee you up for is listen, people listening to this podcast and people that have listened to this podcast, the Craig Yoho experience was not a unique one when it happened, but Craig Yoho happened, and the baseball world is starting to understand that Craig Yoho is a very, very good reliever and a big league quality reliever right now. Did you get that live look at Yoho, or is that the day before?
That was the day before, but
Okay.
fortunately, I've had that one in the past, and then I was
Yeah.
able to dial up the data on that. It looks like he's starting to really get a feel for it, and I think people forget that Yoho has minimal experience pitching wise relative to some other guys at the top, at the upper levels. Like he has flown through the minor leagues, and the thing that stands out the most to me is the fact that he is filling up the zone a little bit more with that. I know it's a small sample, but it just seemed like he was a bit more under control and a bit more comfortable. And the other thing that I noticed, and it was only like one pitch, is that his horizontal work and pitch was shorter, and I think that might help him. I think like a more of a cutter. We talked about the big sweeper that was disgusting, but he landed it for a strike like 50% of the time because it was just
Yeah.
too big. Having
Yeah.
something shorter when you're not able to locate that pitch can really help. And you imagine the changeup, the cutter, the four seamer, and then the big sweeper. Man, that is a nightmare at bat, nightmare situation there. So I think with a really strong camp here, they've got a pretty full bullpen. There's no reason to expedite and self-impose this 40 make the 40 man tighter, so to
Right.
speak. But I do think that he can pretty much solidify himself as next man up if somebody goes down. Who knows? Maybe they find a spot, someone goes down, whatever it may be, and they've put him in there. Wouldn't shock me if he breaks camp. But I think if he can show, the big thing was the strike throwing.
Hmm.
Just because the stuff is so nasty and he hasn't had a ton of innings. If he can show that, man, like that's going to be pretty hard to say, hey, look, we can't get this guy in our bullpen right now.
Yeah. I
They,
totally understand that.
they also spawned another airbender, which this one was like jar bending, like jarring for me. I didn't know he was still playing baseball. And like I checked in like maybe a year ago, and I was like, oh, he's still going. Good for him. Chase Costello. Um, I
I'd never
played
heard that name before.
I played against this guy in high school a bunch. He went to Pompano. It was like rival in our district. Like probably played him a million times. Great player. I thought he was gonna hit. I didn't know he was still pitching. So you got to imagine for me, I'm sitting there and I'm like Chase Costello. That name sounds really familiar. And I'm looking at him. I'm like, oh man, that guy went to Pompano. So and then I'm watching him throw these airbenders too. He has the same circle change thing going on. And I'm like, what in the world is going on? So was really happy for him. Brewers weirdly threw two guys in that game. Then they also threw the Evan McKendry, who we've talked about, who like haunted
Yeah.
us in high school. So it was like kind of traumatizing to a degree, but no, it was really cool to see. I'm like, man, they found another arm here in Chase Costello, who I dug back into the numbers, had a pretty interesting year. Looks like he could be another one of those where did they find this guy reliever? And was sitting 94, 95 last year and this spawned this airbender. All I'll say is thank goodness he didn't have that in high school.
Okay, so Chase Costello, former hitter. Craig Yoho, former hitter in college. This is the same organization that had Lucas Urseg transfer from the plate to the mound. Like they they have this pattern that's formulating, man. That's really cool.
Yeah, I think Costello leaned into the pitching thing a little bit more once he got into college and may have scrapped it, but still, I think they clearly are focusing on the guys that were able to do both and are talented at both. So that was a cool, just little wrinkle there, and I want to see what he's going to do this year. So another airbender changeup type to maybe have on your radar.
All right, two guys that hit mammoth tanks that I want to discuss: Bryce Eldridge and Jack Caglione. I want to start with Eldridge here because it was 450 feet dead center against the Rangers on the first day of spring training ball. We saw him play in the fall league, and we used the term "baby giraffe" for Eldridge. Like it did look like things were moving a little slowly for a big guy, but that looked beautiful. Did you see the swing? Like it was a thing of beauty.
Yeah, it was effortless. That's the biggest thing for me. Just his power is so simple because of those levers. Like, and the baby draft comp is just like when you're that tall and that young, it could just be a little bit awkward. He's not awkward in the respect of like an athlete in general, but when you're trying to perfect a swing and things like that, like yeah, you can have some length and sometimes some just some inconsistencies movement wise. But I will say, like, he gets the ball in the air really consistent. Because we talk about long lever guys often struggling to create the angles to get it in the air the way that you want. This swing was exactly what you want to see. Just the perfect amount of loft, but still being able to get on plane with a pitch that's at the upper third of the zone. And it looks like he's swinging at like 70%. Obviously, he's getting it off, but I mean, this is a guy that that swing I've just been watching on repeat from the open side, and I just start to get a little reckless thinking about what that swing could produce really in any environment. So you can understand why the Giants are pushing him aggressively. And again, another guy that he's not going to break camp, but with a strong camp, or excuse me, he's not going to break camp, but with a strong spring training, like this process could absolutely be expedited because you have to remember it's kind of hard to prove that you're ready for the big leagues when you're going to be hitting in the PCL. It's like, okay, yeah, we're kind of expecting you to hit nukes. So just showing some things here that he may not even have an opportunity to fully show in the PCL, I think will be very important.
Yeah. How about Cags? I know
Oh.
that's a guy that I don't know. Aren't you the highest among like, kind of people around the industry right now on Cags? But I know that's still like kind of a offensive profile that you're a little worried about. But I mean, he did hit an 115-mile-an-hour homer. It was 115.4, 435 feet. It's probably not that graceful swing that Eldridge has, but
No,
Caglione is like that mammoth juice that is maybe one of a kind in
it's
Major League Baseball.
it's 80. Like it's I think when we update the write-ups for the top 100, it's going to be 70 present, 80 future, and you're just hoping he hits enough to get there. But I was thinking about this the other day because I was like the Caglione profile is really like bizarre in a way because I think the hit tool we've talked about this like it's a 50 hit. So people are like, well, then why is there so much concern? It's because it's like a 20 approach.
Yeah.
So 50 hit is undermined by 20 approach. And other people out there will combine those two. So then in their mind, it's not a 50 hit. But if you look at the contact rates, like the bat to ball is pretty good. Like he's adjustable. He puts the ball in play at a solid clip. Like even if you get past the college numbers where he ran a 90% in zone contact rate in pro ball between his pro debut where he didn't put up great numbers obviously and then the fall league where he put up better numbers, he ran an in zone contact rate of 90% there. Like this is a guy that, and I don't think he's going to do that at the highest level when the stuff's a little bit more gnarly, but he was still seeing an average fastball velocity in 93. He's still seeing average slider velocity of 84. It's not far off. So the bat to ball is good. It's just the approach is brutal. So can he rein that in? But what I was thinking about that was so weird. I'm like, so you have a 50 hit and 80 power like that is like close to Jordan. The problem is Jordan walks and Cags. I don't know if we've ever seen a guy with top of the scale power as good a bat to ball as you could dream on to go with it, and then
Yeah.
the worst approach you could think of at that point. So if there's a way that he's able to continue to tone that down, it's going to be really exciting to see. But I just think being able to get these flashes of what he is capable of is a great reminder. I had somebody, that I respect in the industry respond and basically ask me what drug I'm on for how high we had CAG. So like, you know, th- I get it when you watch some of these at bats, but he can do the things that you can't teach. And
Yeah.
again, I think the bat to ball gets really underestimated here when we talk about Cags and what he's capable of. 115.4, and mind
Yeah.
you, this was left on left as
I
well.
didn't know it was left on left. I just saw the close up of the swing and I'm like, his shoulders got bigger.
Yeah, he might have got bigger. Like it's crazy what this guy can produce. And the thing with him is like his F swings are going to produce home runs.
Yeah.
You can't really teach that.
Right. We're going to get to maybe the star of the show on the prospect front in Arizona in a moment. But before that, we'll take a quick break. Baseball kind of seems effortless for Zaire Hope of the LA Dodgers right now, and he's put some crazy swings on baseballs. And I was talking to a couple of Major League Baseball players yesterday, and they said that's a nasty swing,
Mhm.
and this guy's disgusting. everybody around the league is taking notice of Zaire Hope, who you had as a top 20 prospect in baseball going into 24. And he's going to be, I wouldn't even say recklessly high this year. He's going to be really darn high in the top 100. But Zaire Hope to this point, 3 for 10 with a homer, three driven in. He's K'd once in 11 plate appearances in big league spring training. He looks like a linebacker, dude. Like he's filled out 104 backside for an opposite field home run. Like, I mean, a couple of diving plays in left too. A lot of people are going to look at Zaire Hope and say, "Oh, the Dodgers found another guy." No, this is a progression of a guy that you saw. You saw the blueprint for borderline stardom or superstardom when he was a Cubs farmhand and like really low A, like complex ball. And I think everybody's going to see that in 2025.
Yeah, it's one of those things that people are going to look back and say like, oh, how did the Cubs let this guy go? Blah blah blah. And the thing is, he was so far off when the trade went down. I think I can pull up the initial tweet. Um, it was that's a good get for the Dodgers because he has high upside and you're trading a prospect that had been kind of blocked in Michael Bush. But we were never saying like, oh my goodness, how could they trade Zaire Hope? He could be a star. We did think he could be a star, like in terms of if things worked out, but he was so far off. I was like, if I'm the Cubs, I don't know if I'm necessarily letting him stop me from getting Michael Bush at the time. I would have preferred to go move anybody else, but if the Dodgers are adamant and said it's Zaire Hope or nobody else, like
Yeah.
I maybe I wouldn't have. I don't know. Like if I was seeing him more internally and I worked for the Cubs, maybe I would have felt differently. At the time, I think literally what I said was extremely exciting tools to the potential to be an all-star, but very far off. Fun project for the Dodgers. Project. I don't know if I'm going to give the Dodgers credit though for him developing the way that he has. I think it's just Zaire Hope being an absolute freak show and just finding it really quickly, like really, really quickly. And we're just seeing it, the polish. We had a very brief exchange with him in the fall league just to say hello, and I don't know, even just in our quick conversation with him, I'm like, the guy already kind of carries himself like he's a big leaguer. Like you can tell he knows he's got it like that, but at the same time, he's hardworking, head down, grinding it out, taking advantage of every opportunity. He's compact, which I think really allows him to make the consistent contact that he's making.
Yeah.
But at the same time, he's I think if you talk about like explosion per pound, he's squeezing out every single drop. And yeah,
Yeah.
this is what I had. Zaire Hope is a project, but a fun one. Crazy tools, fun run times, flash strong EVs already. Will be 19 years old this season. Teams generally want to shoot for upside when clearing 40-man space for prospects, and the Dodgers get plenty of that.
Yeah.
I don't even know at the time if I would have saw this level of upside. He's got a strong arm from the outfield as well that I think we're starting to see. I think people were kind of hating on the glove a little bit at times. This guy's had minimal reps out there. And I think we're seeing now that glove can also be solid. I still think he's a guy that could get by in center. He may not need to. He might end up being just a good corner guy. But I think people are starting to see now that the glove should be just fine too.
You're talking about all the possible boxes that he could have a card in. Like, I mean, we're buying all the stock in Zaire
Bowman
Hope right
flubbed
now.
that. Tops flubbed that. Yep. But
Yep.
yeah, I mean, and also last thing, when we put him at 16 at the end of season update, I thought that was going to be like a little bit too extreme. But I literally, when we were going through, it's just we always say like, okay, would you take this prospect over that prospect? And once we got to 16, I couldn't say I'd take any of those guys over Zaire Hope. And then it made me feel a lot better after Baseball Prospectus came out and had him in the top 15 as well, like a month or two later. And then I just want to
Yep.
like shout out because it was just really cool and meant a lot. Jarrett Seidler of Baseball Prospectus, which by the way, if you're looking for subscriptions, like a great site to
Phenomenal.
support. I've
Phenomenal.
been reading them forever. And like, he had mentioned that they shouted us out, on their show and mentioned that we were the first public list to have him ranked as an elite prospect. And like that doesn't happen a ton in this industry. And I think it says a lot about Baseball Prospectus and their work and just also the fact that they're, looking to just build others up and be
For
honest
sure.
with the way that they're covering things. And like they are they could have easily said, "Hey, we were the first big movers on them, like their baseball
Yeah.
freaking prospectus, and they were the first to move Zion Hope in the top 20." I know it's all rankings at the end of the day, but it was cool just to get that acknowledgement, and I
Sure.
really appreciated that from them.
Yeah, for sure. I thought that was really cool as well. But no, man. I mean, it's gonna be funny. We're gonna play that game, and you could see what low teens, maybe 10, like sneaking into that range. I have no idea. But yeah, he can be a game wrecker. Another guy that can be an absolute game wrecker, and I think the Boston Red Sox found out in Fort Myers. Chandler Simpson of the Tampa Bay Rays. I mean, did you see some highlights there? It was diving catches to Rob Campbell and Meyer and legging out infield singles. Like, welcome to the Chandler Simpson experience, everybody. Like, it's really fun. And at some point, he's going to be the center fielder. They traded Siri. They'll run out DeLuca in center, and I like DeLuca in 25. I think DeLuca can be pretty solid, but he's not going to stop Chandler Simpson. And when Simpson is ready, that's a table setter. We talk about Schwarber being my favorite leadoff guy. Like Simpson could be the antithesis and be my second favorite, or
Yeah.
even my favorite leadoff guy with how impactful he is on the game. And you give him 3 innings, he's going to make his presence felt.
People will talk about slug or whatever. Who cares when you're making every single a double? Like it just that, and we saw that just game wrecker. And even when he doesn't get the bag, pitchers don't care as much in spring training, but like we've been able to see it. Like it throws pitchers off the second he's on base. He's super patient though, which is the big thing that stands out to me too. And this is another guy that could be trying to hit his way there. Like, would you blame him if he was trying to swing a little bit more and get away from who he is as a hitter and be more aggressive? He's not. He's still being patient, getting deeper into counts. But what I love is he went left on left in his first knock and hit it 100 miles an hour. If he's hitting balls, 100 miles per hour, like he's going to be in a pretty good spot. Obviously, it's not going to be all of them, but if he's able to pull stuff like that up and in hard
Yeah.
in the air, and that's what he did with the first hit, and then the next one he got jammed and he's just beat everybody to first base. Like that's the thing, like you're going to get those. So if you're able to mix in a little bit more hard contact here and there, that's great. The big thing is the glove. He flies, but it's a lot of recovery speed being relied on versus good jumps and stuff. I think the jumps have looked good out of the gate here, and he looks a lot more comfortable out there, and he's made some crazy catches. So I imagine he still starts a year in AAA no matter what. They also, I think, want to get Mangum a little bit of run, just see what they got there since he's on the 40.
Sure.
But I think he's going to get up there sooner rather than later, and probably they'll probably appreciate the extra year of service with the Simpson. And
Sure.
then, I could imagine he's a guy that ends up getting up not long after that, especially if there's an injury.
Yeah, I would think probably before the All-Star break, like a mid-June, early July is like my ballpark estimate right now.
Especially if you need a spark, man. Like,
Yeah, dude. Like,
of course, you can bring up a power hitter or whatever it may be, but this is a table setter spark that he can score a run on his own, right? Like they're going to call him like Simpson runs, right? Where like he's
yeah,
going to infield single, steal second, ball gets thrown away, and he might come around to score. Like it could be
yeah,
that simple. He could tag on a fly ball from second base and score. Like there's just going to be ways that he can help you push across a run when your offense is struggling. That it's probably going to be such a breath of fresh air because like there's going to be times where your offense is going to be struggling.
yep. JJ Weatherholt, St. Louis Cardinals, 2 for 3 in his first big league spring game. He pinch hit, was 0 for 1. Okay, I don't care. 2 for 3 with an opposite field homer, and he knew it off AJ Bluebaugh of the Astros. And I mean, he played a comfortable shortstop in that game. I think I know that you're super excited to see him, and you got to see him for a minute last year in the Florida State League playoffs, right? I was
Yeah.
going to say FCL, FSL, yeah, FSL, Florida State League playoffs, but he's not going to be there anymore. Like this seems
No,
like a guy that can handle high A, can handle double A. How quickly do you see him moving?
think bat wise, real quick, it's more of a question to me of like, do they want to continue to develop him at short? And I think he's actually looked okay there. So, that's the one side of it is do they want to slow roll him there and get him consistent reps at short? And they do like to move a little bit slower with their prospects, but they also have not really had a chance to draft a JJ Weatherholt caliber bat.
Yeah,
Because they're usually not drafting that high. And even then, it was a shock that he fell to them. I think between the approach and the feel to hit, he can fly up, like fly up. And I think ultimately they're probably going to want to move him relatively quickly. Um, I love to see those kind of home runs from him where you do want to see him pull the ball in the air more. Like if there's one, like I think just bugaboo in the profile, it's that he doesn't pull the ball in the air, but his path isn't totally geared for that. And I think that's okay because he makes a ton of contact and he still, gets carried to the backside. But if you're not going to pull the ball in the air a ton, you got to be able to leave the yard to the backside like that and backspin it. He didn't get all of that. That was 100.6 off the bat. And for whatever reason, he knew it right away, even though like it
Yeah.
got out by about 5, 10 feet.
And we're in
I
Florida. Like again, we're not in Arizona. We're in Florida. It's kind of humid outside.
It doesn't go. And he knew though, because I think he just has this feel to backspin, and that's what it really was a testament to for me. So like if he can do that to all fields, or mostly center and away, it's going to be in a good
Yeah.
spot. But I think the big thing to watch with him is the defense at short and the
hmm
health, and just, are those legs holding up?
Statistically speaking, we saved our best offensive performer for last. Rocktober's on, baby, because Zach Veen is kicking tail right now. 4 for 10, two doubles, a homer, driven in four, 3 for 3 in the stolen base department. Oh, by the way, he's only K'd once in 11 plate appearances. I mean, he's off to an insane tear right now
Yeah.
in camp. And, obviously it happened. He had two knocks in the game that Verlander started. It was a giant split squad game. And we're going to talk about Dollander, who was on the other side of Verlander. But, that game was not stat casted. It was not televised or anything like that. But you got to look at Veen, and the side shot of the bat flip was amazing. He's balling, man. And remember, like, I think he started 24 spring pretty hot as well and then cooled off and then was reassigned to minor league camp. I mean, dude, like he should be in big league camp the entirety of the spring with this start, no?
Yeah, absolutely. And I think he's starting to get a little bit more opportunities than some of these other prospects, right? Like he's getting 2, 3 ABs a game, which is great to see. And I think he's a guy that's had to climb back, I think, and regain some of the shine and attention. With the Jordan Beck doing what he did at the upper levels. I know he's stalled out at the big league level, but and just some of the other prospects that have performed while Veen's been banged up and inconsistent. And it was interesting when we had Kevin Henry on the Just Baseball show, who's one of our writers and does a great job also, covering the whole league, but specifically the Rockies. And maturity was a big topic there with Veen and just kind of maturity at the plate and also just in general in the way that he's carrying himself and going about his business. And um, I feel like at the plate, small sample, but he specifically cited chase and things like that. He's been selective. Like it's we only have 8 plate appearances here, but he's not expanding a ton. And when he gets something in the zone, he's letting it eat. That home run that he hit, 108, 430 feet,
Dude.
absolutely spanked that thing. So like it's been cool to see him get into that power and start to play a little bit more free. He's elevating himself without a doubt, and it sounds like from what Kevin Henry said, like the Rockies kind of told him you're going to have to earn this thing. Like we know you were a top pick, and we have a lot invested in you, but like you got to go get it yourself. We're not just going to hand it to you, even though you're on the 40. Like
Yeah.
and that's exactly what he's doing so far.
He's earning it right now, man. And another guy that might be earning a spot a lot quicker, Chase Dollander, first of like four pitchers that we want to talk about, and no statcast to work off of, no telecast. We did get to talk to Kevin about Dollander, and the snippets that I saw on Twitter, the delivery looked clean. The ball like it looked like it was exploding out of his hand. The velo readings were, I mean, like 96, 97 on the heater. And Kevin tweeted it out, I do think. It was like 32 pitches, 26 for strikes in 2 innings. Like, he matched up with Justin Verlander, and matched him. How cool is that?
Yeah. Yeah, even if it's a couple innings in spring training, it's got to be cool because Dollander was aware of just the energy there and just I think the gravity of the situation, where like you think guys don't get adrenaline up. Like it was eye-opening when Job came on, and he was talking about his first spring training appearance and how much adrenaline he had. And something that Kevin had mentioned on that in the episode was that Dollander, like, because it was such a unique situation where he's going to get to face, pitch opposite of Verlander and also get the start against what was an entirely, A lineup for the
Yes.
Giants, right? It was Lamont Wade, Willie Adames, Jung Hoo Lee, Matt Chapman. It was their guys. He had to like kind of control his breathing and get himself, back to zen and treat it like any other start. And just to see the fastball slider combination working the way it did, and giving up the home run to Jung Hoo Lee and then locking back in and punching out three. This is one of the best fastballs in minor league baseball. And if the secondary feel is there, we know the slider can be, but the curveball and the changeup as well.
Yeah.
This guy could be one of the best pitchers, in minor league baseball, period. So,
Yeah.
and also has the upside to be one of the better pitchers in baseball. Colorado is going to make that difficult, but he has the stuff. He is built to be able to have success at altitude, and that's what the most exciting part is. And what my biggest takeaway from the conversation we had with Kevin is that it doesn't sound like the Rockies are ruling out at all Chase Dollander being on this opening day roster.
No, that was my big takeaway too. And he it's cool because it's a lot like what happened with Jared Jones in Pirates camp last year. He controls his own destiny. If he balls, then he could take that 5 spot. And the only guys that I think you're sharpieing in at that point are Herman Marquez, who goes today, and then after that, is Freeland healthy? I think Freeland's healthy.
I think he's
So like
healthy. Senzatella's back, but they could easily swingman him. Yeah, it's interesting. And I like the Jared Jones comp because if you think about the way that the Arsenal can translate immediately to the major league level, it's very similar. Fastball
yeah.
slider combination that's elite. You hope that the third and fourth pitches come along a little bit more to
I think they're
elevate their
better
their
than Jones's.
for sure,
Yeah.
for sure. But at the same time, like he might just be in survival mode at the big league level and just
Yeah.
end up throwing 85% fastball slider, and he could
And
still dominate in the days that
yeah.
he's on. The thing is, after 10, 12, 13 starts, teams may adjust, and that's where it's going to be important to find that third pitch a little bit more. He has it more than Jones does, but that's the final step there. I think he can have that final step of maturation done at the big league level because, like you said, it's better than Jones's. And Jones had success at the big league level and helped the Pirates last year.
Right. By the way, final line on Dollander: 2 innings, 2 hits, 1 run. The only run came out of Jung Hoo Lee's solo homer, but he K'd Lamont Wade on 3 pitches to open up his day. No walks, 3 Ks, 36 pitches, 28 for strikes.
That's the
In his
big
big
thing.
league spring debut, come on, man!
Yeah.
Like that's a guy that met the moment. 7 pitches, 4 for strikes for the next guy that I want to bring up here, Robbie Snelling of the Miami Marlins. Snelling hit 97 miles an hour. He was 96, 97. He showcased, I think, one gyro slider, maybe a second gyro slider. Snelling looked like the 2023 Robbie Snelling. And I know it was only 7 pitches, but I watched his inning and I was like, damn, man, Snelling's back. Let's do this.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I mean this is the thing where like, okay, you don't want to overreact to spring training samples or things like that. But we talked about it the other episode where there's kind of things that you can look at and still take, I think a fair degree away from. And new maxes are absolutely going to be of note because remember, this is our first time seeing these guys in a game setting off of a full off season to work. And when we just talked about the Marlins top prospects, we said Robbie Snelling is as clear cut of an uptick candidate as you've got, right? A 6'3" lefty who is a supreme athlete, who works his butt off and is only going to be 21 years old for the entirety of this season. Why can't that guy, get a tick back up in the fastball or two? And for reference, he has only touched 97 once. He was right when you asked him about that in the clubhouse. 97.4 in 2023, and that's it. And we saw him do it already here in spring training. He could build up even more and be touching that more consistently. He doesn't need to be sitting 97 though. Like if he's sitting closer to the mid 90s, that stuff's gonna play. And is that so that gyro slider is new?
That gyro slider's new, and
I
I know
love
that's
that
something
for
that the
him.
Marlins are working on with a lot of guys.
I love that. I mean, I love that for him. And it's becoming one of the more common new, like it's the new sweeper. It's the new in vogue pitch, by the way.
Yeah.
Everybody's got a gyro slider. But for him specifically, I think that's going to work really well off the fastball with the pitchability, take guys off of the other breaking ball, which I just don't not think is quite sharp enough to be a swing and miss pitch. I think it's a good fourth pitch. So I love it for Snelling. And it's exciting. I think it's enough to just get really pumped up about what the next outing might look like.
Yep. Two arms that I want to talk about to wrap. TK Roby of the St. Louis Cardinals, 96, 97 with the heater. He was 2 innings, I think hitless for sure, scoreless. I've got this in front of me here. Yeah. Two hitless innings. He hit one batter, no walks. He K'd three in his five ABs. I mean, dude, like Roby being healthy is probably priority one for not only the Cardinals, but for you in terms of evaluating TK Roby. But the fact that the fastball was lively, we know what the stuff is, and the fact that he was healthy and the stuff was back to where we know it can be was probably really important for you.
Oh my gosh, it's just nice to see. There's nothing worse than a talented player not being able to showcase his talent because, his body is in the way, unfortunately, and that's the case so frequently with pitchers. But with Roby, man, like when he's healthy, it's some of the better stuff that you're gonna find. But it's just been a challenge, and I think the health had also affected his secondary command at times because it's shoulder stuff, right? Where I think
Yeah.
with the shoulder you compensate more from a release point perspective than with the elbow. And we saw that with Sasaki as well when we were talking about him. So we saw his secondary command just really wane even when he was on the mound. He averaged 97 on the 11 fastballs he threw. But the other thing that I really like is I mean, he has good secondaries, but they were so inconsistent. Small sample, but we saw him throw 12 curveball sliders and changeups, and nine were strikes. I'd venture to say there weren't a lot of stretches last year when he was healthy, where of 12 pitches, where nine were strikes of those
Yeah.
secondaries. So,
Yeah.
really encouraging to see, and hopefully he can build on that.
Yep. And last but not least, Grant Taylor of the
Oh,
Chicago White Sox. 101.2 at 7.4 feet of extension. Did Michael Massey have a chance to like react to a pitch like that? Does anybody? That's crazy stuff.
that's a 70 fastball. I mean, that's an 80 fastball if he's doing that like consistently. If he's getting 100 miles an hour with 7.4 extension, like
I mean,
that's an
he
80
sat
fastball.
98, 99, and he hit 101.2. And he
Like,
was consistently 7.4, 7.5 feet of extension.
and this is another guy where, yeah, you're not going to overreact to a small sample, but remember, this is also someone that was not healthy for the entirety of the season. We only got to see him briefly in low A because he was also injured in college as well. So it's kind of like a sneaky draft pick with upside that you're excited about. And we got teased with five appearances where he struck out 32 in 19 and a thirds innings and then
Yeah.
gets hurt. So then we see him in the fall league, and understandably, there was the rust. So
Yeah.
he was still sitting 97, 98, but it didn't look quite as lively as we had seen it, when he was throwing earlier in the year. This is better than it had looked at any point in his baseball career, even if it is just a handful of pitches. Like
Yeah.
he was sitting in the triple digits pretty much. So I'm really excited to just see him build off of that. But I mean, the data is crazy when you're getting that kind of extension. It's kind of cut ride as well, and it's got to be getting on guys as quick as anybody. So I think he worked hard on his body this offseason to make sure that he can be ready to go. And I think we're seeing the velo dividends pay off as well.
For sure. That's what we got, man.
Yeah, so you guys have what? No double headers when you got to make them up in spring training, right? You just did they just cancel
No,
it?
that game is straight up canceled. We've got Nats today. Brady House is going to play today, which is great. I'm excited to watch him. You've got Dylan Cruz. I'm excited to get another look at him. The only day that I'm doing two broadcasts is spring breakout. We're going to do the spring breakout game on Marlins
Oh,
Radio,
hell
which I'm
yeah.
very excited for.
So tune into that. Be sure to
Yeah.
listen to you'll be doing that on radio, but I'll be able to get that on MLB TV, right? Or MLB TV.
You,
Will I
you
switch that
should be
over?
able to, like the audio overlay. Yeah, you
Yeah.
should be able to get that. No problem.
Some fun pitching today too that we'll be able to recap soon too, where we got
For sure.
Kumar on the bump, you got Jackson Jobe on the bump,
Quinn
Quinn
Matthews.
Matthews, Mizorowski. We got some fun names, so we'll continue to
Yeah.
check in on these guys and their stuff. And I've heard a little rumor that Roki Sasaki is going to be throwing on the backfield today, so I'm going to be out at Camelback Ranch, and hopefully I don't get Jesus Madade. But we'll see what happens. I'd
Yeah.
imagine if they say Sasaki's throwing, he's throwing, and it's going to be a zoo.
Yeah.
But that'll do it for this episode. We have Mets top prospects coming later this week as well, and that's a fun system to be updating. A lot of, I think, names to check in on and new names in that system that are climbing. So keep an eye out for that. And we'll be continuing to check in on spring training and kind of help you with your takeaways throughout the rest of February and March. As always, thank you for listening. Look forward to talking prospects with you later this week.